Hey there, I'm Lily. Buckle up, because at 28, I'm officially divorced from my ex-husband Henry. Yes, you heard that right. Just a few months ago. Hard to believe, isn't it? I first met Henry back in college. We shared classes and struck up casual conversations. Before long, we were completely taken with each other, enjoying what looked like the perfect relationship. Then suddenly, the marriage collapsed. Shocking, right? The biggest issue was Henry's mother, Victoria. For reasons I never understood, she disliked me from the start and made constant attempts to separate us. I often told Henry how uncomfortable she made me, but he rarely intervened. Standing up to her was difficult for him, since he grew up with only her for support. Eventually, I decided to ignore her toxic behavior, though she never stopped. She criticized everything I did, even things she knew nothing about. I suspected Henry was sharing details of my life with her, which only made things worse. Our arguments grew more intense, but after one heated fight, Henry finally agreed to stop telling her about me. We dated for 3 years before getting married. When Victoria realized she could no longer get under my skin, she turned her focus to convincing Henry to leave me. That failed too, so we cut down contact with her. Around that time, both Henry and I received promotions. Since I earned a little more, we split expenses 60/40ths, with me paying the larger share. Life together was good, but personally I felt something was missing. I needed a hobby. I'd always been good with design, whether interior or otherwise, and wanted something I could do from home. Then it hit me: graphic design. Without hesitation, I signed up for courses, bought the equipment I needed, and started practicing, quietly, without telling Henry. I usually keep my projects secret until I know they'll work out, since not all of them last. The only person I confided in was my best friend, Sophie. "So, I've picked up something new," I told her. She teased. "Another one of your hobbies. You still drop it soon." "Hopefully not. I think I could make money this time." "Really? Don't just hold back. What is it?" "Well, I've always had an eye for design, so I started graphic designing. That's actually a brilliant idea. It's a profitable field. I've taken a few courses, and I want to start working, maybe with a firm." "No, firms are boring. You lose interest. But I know people starting businesses. They still need logos and websites. I can connect you." And she did. These people happened to be wealthy and willing to take a chance on me, even though I was still a beginner. They liked my work, and soon I was introduced to others. Slowly I began earning well from my side job. It made life easier, and I was even saving up to surprise Henry with something nice. But whenever I tried to bring it up, he avoided conversations. Something felt off. The first sign came when Henry told me he'd spent all his salary on investments just a week after payday. We argued, but I picked up extra hours at work to cover us. The next month, the same thing happened. I was furious. How could he blow through that much money so quickly? I snapped, said some harsh things, and later regretted it, but thought maybe he needed tough love. Yet the following month, he repeated the same excuse. By then, I was exhausted. My graphic design work was thriving, and even paying most of our bills. But when Henry once again claimed he had no money, I'd had enough. "How could you let this happen again? Don't you learn?" I demanded. "I'm just trying to get big returns, but I messed up a little," he replied. "It's not see a little septus. When you lose your entire paycheck, you expect me to keep covering for you? You have your money. We manage like we always do." "No. Done. I once support you this month. You handle your own expenses. You can do that. Well, you can gamble away your salary either. I still make sure shared bills are paid, but the rest is on you. If you can afford gas, then take the bus." "So you want me to look poor? Public transport doesn't make you poor. Stop acting entitled. If you wanted to drive, You shouldn't said have wasted your pay. You stir selfish. How could you do this to me? What about what you sitter doing to me? I's been working extra hours just to clean up after you. Try seeing it from my side. But Henry stormed out, saying he couldn't deal with me, and disappeared without telling me where he was going. His behavior didn't add up, and suspicion grew. I began to wonder if Victoria was involved. While he was gone, I did some digging. I had access to his bank account since he'd once logged in on my laptop. To my shock, he wasn't broke at all. He had plenty of money. The transactions looked normal. Why had he been lying? I checked his messages, and the first thing I saw was him texting Victoria about our fight. He told her I lashed out because he refused to give me money. Her response? I told you. It became clear she was behind his change in behavior. She constantly messaged him, pointing out flaws she claimed I had, like being money-hungry, which was absurd, since I contributed the most financially. Henry began sharing small complaints with her, and she encouraged every one of them. Finally, they made a plan. He would cut me off financially. At first, Henry resisted, but after months of her pushing, he agreed. He even made up stories to justify it, like me working extra hours or supposedly yelling at him. They were working as a team against me. The discovery crushed me. I didn't know what to do, so I went straight to Sophie's place late that night. She's always the first person I turn to. I showed up around 11:30 p.m., unannounced, and she immediately let me in, handed me a glass of wine, and asked what was wrong. I just found out some disturbing things, and I don't know what to do. I admitted. About who? She asked. Victoria and Henry. What did they do? You know how Henry claimed he was gambling away money on bad investments? Turns out he wasn't set. He sets had money all along, but refused to give me any. That makes no sense. You've been covering most of the bills. Exactly. And yes, his mother is involved. She set's been texting him non-stop about my flaws, convincing him to cut me off financially. She doesn't set even know about my side income. Unbelievable. And Henry? He can see you, Seth. Been the one keeping everything afloat? Apparently not. I ended the night, realizing I needed a plan, because clearly, I wasn't just fighting Henry. I was fighting both him and his mother. It was clear what Victoria wanted: pull the rug out from under Henry, leave him with nothing, and then push for divorce when he was most vulnerable. Sophie thought it sounded cruel, but Henry hadn't cared about fairness, so why should I? Sophie, however, urged me to rest, reminding me that I was exhausted and not in the right state to decide anything. She was right. The day had drained me completely, and all I wanted was sleep. The next morning was a weekend, so Sophie and I decided to take a break from all the drama. We stayed in, watched old movies, cooked a nice meal, and spent the day simply enjoying each other's company. I had to stop myself from constantly thinking about everything, but I knew taking some distance was necessary before I could face it again. That evening, however, I received a call from Victoria. At first I hesitated to answer, but Sophie encouraged me to pick it up. My heart raced as I answered. "Hello, Victoria. You stir a disgrace," she said immediately. "All you want is my son Sep's money." "Excuse me?" I asked. "That's Sep's why you cut off his expenses, isn't it?" "No. Henry has been recklessly spending on questionable investments. My kin and Sit keep covering his poor choices, especially when they affect us both." "Well, that was all a test," she snapped. "I was proving that you are only with him for his money, and you just confirmed it. Dawn said you think you crossed a line by meddling so much in our marriage? Who are you to talk about right and wrong? You stir nothing but a gold digger." Then she shifted gears. "But here's the solution. Split everything 50-50ths with Henry. We'll have a contract prepared. Once it's signed, you still stick to it." "If Henry agrees, I'll agree," I replied. But I want a copy of the contract. Of course. We'll see you on Tuesday. I couldn't believe my marriage had reached this point. I was furious. Not only had she called me a gold digger, but Henry was going along with it. I had supported him through everything, even his lies, yet this was how I was treated. When I told Sophie, she smiled, pointing out something I hadn't considered. If everything was divided evenly, Henry would finally feel the financial strain he'd been shielding himself from. He had no idea about my side business, which had started as a secret until I felt confident enough to reveal it. In fact, I had been saving to buy him something expensive with my earnings. At that moment, I was grateful I had built a backup plan. Tuesday arrived quickly. After work, Sophie joined me to witness the meeting. At home, Victoria and Henry were already with a lawyer. Henry was glued to his phone, while Victoria reviewed documents and issued instructions. She barely acknowledged me, though Henry nervously tried to signal me to talk privately. I ignored him and went straight to the lawyer, asking to see the contract. As expected, it required us to split everything evenly, with the added rule that neither could help the other financially if one came up short. I signed it. It didn't take long for Henry to feel the consequences. At first, we barely spoke. I saw no reason to engage with someone so willing to see me struggle, but eventually he grew desperate for conversation. "Please, can we talk? I miss us," he said. "Is that why you signed a contract to separate our finances?" I asked. "I just wanted to see if you were in it for the money. You still believe your mother after everything she sets caused between us? Do you really think this is a solution? Don't call her problematic. And what money do you even need so much of? There will be no reconciliation until that contract is gone. It's only been 2 weeks. I need proof you stitch, not just here for the money. If you're struggling, I'm willing to help," I replied calmly. "Wouldn't that break the contract?" he asked. "You stir the one who insisted on this arrangement. Let's keep things civil." The man I had married would never have chosen a path that harmed me, but Henry had allowed his mother to steer him into decisions he would regret. By the next month, the reality hit him. I had already paid my share of our major expenses, and with my lighter financial load, I was thriving. I even had room to indulge myself. Sophie and I enjoyed fine dining, museums, and cozy cafes, much of it documented on social media. I often invited Henry, but he always declined, claiming he had no money. Meanwhile, my graphic design business was flourishing to the point where I reduced hours at my main job and even considered quitting. Henry, on the other hand, was visibly struggling. I divided even the groceries, and his side of the pantry was often bare. Part of me pitied him, but I reminded myself he had created this situation. Eventually, Victoria showed up while I was out with Sophie. When I returned, she was already there. "Oh, hi, Victoria. What brings you here?" "Don't play innocent," she snapped. "Thilt. I know what you been doing, and I been calling the police." "Excuse me? You been stealing from Henry. You just taking his money while living a lavish life." "Henry has no money to steal. And let's not forget, you pushed us into signing that contract." "Liar. Then explain how you have so much money. Your job doesn't pay more than Henry sets, and he told me you cut your hours." "I run a graphic design business. I plan to surprise Henry with it, even buy him a car, but your interference ruined that." "You kept this from me?" Henry asked in shock. "I wanted it to be a good surprise, not another argument, but now it doesn't matter." I handed Henry divorce papers I had already filed right after we signed the contract. He stared at me in disbelief, but I was unmoved. Victoria, strangely, looked upset, not pleased, because she saw what this meant for Henry financially. I told him I'd be moving out in 3 weeks, still covering my share of the loans until then. He tried to plead, but I made it clear he had brought this on himself. Months have passed since then, and I couldn't be happier to be free from that toxic relationship. Victoria didn't let Henry go quietly, but thanks to the contract she had pushed so hard for, he had nothing to gain. In fact, he lost more, unable to keep up with the mortgage. We sold the house, and he moved back in with his mother. As for me, life has only improved. My business has grown. I've worked with major brands, and I finally feel at peace. I'm just grateful I had a safety net. Without it, I could have ended up in Henry's position. Hopefully he learns from this experience. But that's no longer my concern.